Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeanette Gisbert, and I'm the Executive Director of Volunteer New York. I am super excited to welcome you to this Facebook Live event in honor of Giving Tuesday. Our intent in hosting this gathering this morning is to increase your understanding of what Giving Tuesday is, to shine the light on local community leaders who have chosen to support community through Giving Tuesday, to elevate just a few of the amazing local nonprofits and their needs, and to offer each of you very specific actions that you can take today to create a community where everyone has the opportunity to reach their full potential. And along the way, I hope that we will also have some fun as we continue to experiment and innovate in this COVID world that we find ourselves in. Volunteer New York is one of those local nonprofits that we hope to introduce you to today. Our mission is to connect volunteers who are eager to help with fellow nonprofits meeting critical needs. And there's no doubt that over the last few months, our work has had to look different. But I am pleased to share with you that our work has not stopped. In fact, over the last 8 months, we have expanded and adapted our services to meet pressing community needs. And we have seen an increase of over 100% in individuals just like you who have raised their hand to help community. What we have seen over the last 8 months is that volunteers have shown us that community is not canceled. And it's the spirit of generosity that was the genesis of Giving Tuesday. So what is Giving Tuesday? Giving Tuesday was created right here in our own backyard at the 92nd Street Y in New York City in 2012 with a very simple idea. And it was, how do we make it even easier for people to do good? Since 2012, it's grown into a global generosity movement with a guiding principle that everyone has something to give and every act of generosity counts. Really early on, Volunteer New York recognized the synergies between our mission and Giving Tuesday's mission. And as such, we wanted to create something new and an interesting way for our local community to join this global movement. Our friends at the Journal News have seen the power of community in action for decades and agreed to help amplify our work. And thus, the Giving Tuesday hat campaign was born. And you'll hear a little bit more about that shortly. So I'm really here just to kind of set the stage for this morning's conversation and to, as I mentioned, kind of share with you a little bit more about what Giving Tuesday is. As well as to introduce to you a little bit more about Volunteer New York. And so I think that my next task is to share with you a little bit of a preview, a very special podcast that Volunteer New York created recently, an interview with the CEO of Giving Tuesday, Asha Curran. We were really pleased and honored that she was able and willing to spend some time with us here at Volunteer New York, talking about what the ideas behind Giving Tuesday, the guiding principles and the philosophy that Giving Tuesday has adopted towards growing this global movement. And so I'm hoping that the technology is our friend and that we will be able to hear a short preview of our podcast with her. Fingers crossed.
The following is an excerpt from episode 3 of The Volo Show titled Generosity is Not Just a Nice to Have. To hear this episode in full, visit volunteernewyork.org/podcast. Asha, what would you say to someone who asks why they should give on Giving Tuesday? Why is this the day to give? I
I would say that it is such a low bar to do something that makes a difference to someone else, and that there is such a strong emotional payoff to doing it. And I think that almost everyone feels the drive to do that, and that sometimes in a time like this, it can simply be paralyzing. But there are so many ways to make a difference. When this first happened, we set up what we call a daily generosity alert, that we send out a text every day with an idea of how to do one small, doable, safe act of generosity. And we have all of those on the website, now.givingtuesday.org. So, whether it means reading, a book to the child of a friend or neighbor to give the parent a break, whether it means taking chalk and drawing messages of support on the pavement outside in your community safely, whether it means putting a picture of a rainbow in your window so that other children can see it when they pass by. These are all things that people are doing. One woman in England created these incredible templates that she could print out and cut into small cards, and each one of them said, "This is my name, this is my email, I live in apartment XYZ, and please contact me if you need any help." And then neighbors could fill it out and return it to her. And those kinds of inspired acts of generosity we're seeing those examples by the hundreds and thousands. And so any of those things is a way to activate, so to speak, on Giving Tuesday now. Certainly clicking the donate button or virtually volunteering are all ways as well, showing appreciation and caring for the people who are on the front lines of this crisis, putting themselves at risk, showing support for a nearby small business, right? By buying a gift card that you might be able to use later, even if you can't use it now, but meaning that they get the support right now when they need it.
The abundance versus scarcity mindset has been central to your vision for Giving Tuesday. For those listening, can you explain what this is?
Abundance versus scarcity mentality. Scarcity mentality is this idea that there's a finite pool of generosity and that we are sort of fighting each other to access that pool of generosity. And so we are sort of always fighting to get to the next moment and thinking small and not taking risks and not breaking down silos. An abundance mindset is the thinking that there's an infinite pool of generosity, that we don't need to fight for our small piece of that pie because it's big enough for everyone. And that in fact, if we have abundance mindset and we work together in concert with other people rather than against them with other organizations, and we think about our mission before our logo and our brand, and we want other organizations to have success when we have success, that we will actually make so much more progress toward our missions and have more individual success. I think that's one lesson that, Giving Tuesday has really taught us. So scarcity versus abundance mindset can exist in any area of our lives. This is the area where I see it really, really playing out. And I think it's just a happier way to live in addition to being a more effective way to work. I guess the last thing I would say is that people sometimes think that, if they don't have any money to give, that they're not going to be able to make much of a difference. And that they think of volunteering and they think of, doing free online therapy sessions or, sewing masks. And if they can't do one of those specialized things, that they're not going to be useful. And what I would just ask people to think about is, in my opinion, if you do something that brings others joy or relief or a feeling of connection in these particular times, boom, you are volunteering.
If you're a community member who would like to publicly thank a volunteer who has made a positive impact on your life, and you'd be interested in being on the Volo Show, please reach out on our contact page.
Awesome. Great. I hope that you guys enjoyed that little special preview of our latest episode of the Volo Show. The entire episode can be listened to at volunteernewyork.org/podcast. I think that there were some really, for me, powerful comments that Asha talks about in terms of the spirit of abundance and generosity. And it's one of the reasons why we decided to bring this Facebook Live event to fruition today, to be able to shine the light on all of the nonprofits or some of the nonprofits that are doing great work in our local community, because we believe that there is a spirit of generosity and abundance here in Westchester, and folks just need to be made aware of how it is that they can make a difference. And again, to Asha's point, every act of generosity counts. So it is now my real pleasure to turn the quote unquote mic over to Ed Forbes. Ed is a newly minted, as he likes to say, Volunteer New York board member. But in his day job, he is the Senior Director of News and Engagement at USA Today, a founding partner of our Giving Tuesday hat campaign, sorry. And he is going to be kind of facilitating the conversations with some of our nonprofit partners and taking us through the rest of the program for today. So I'm going to hopefully turn my video off, and Ed, hopefully you are on.
Good morning, Jeanette, and thanks for having me. It's a privilege to be here. I am so proud of calling this community home, and the Journal News and lohud.com and the larger USA Today network continue to be so proud of this great partnership, which began with some terrific energy in 2015 between the leadership of our organization and the leadership of Volunteer New York. And we can't believe that this is our 6th Giving Tuesday volunteer hat campaign. So we're going to kick things off here by looking back a bit at the campaign's history with this video segment.
Don't you love these hats? Then buy one today. And when you do, you'll be supporting volunteerism, nonprofits in Westchester, and looking great at the same time.
Michael Welling, Volunteer New York board member here, keeping the excitement rolling on this Giving Tuesday 2017. On my way to deliver the next hat.
I wear the volunteer hat even in Houston, Texas, and that's no bull. Just watch. NFC Bank is locally on Giving Tuesday. Act with your heart and give locally on Giving Tuesday. Yay!
Challenge everyone in their shop to wear the hat.
It's a wonderful opportunity for everyone to come together in unity and acknowledge that it's not just about taking, but it's about giving back and helping others.
Go ahead, say it again.
Give it Tuesday!
I am back, and that was a terrific video segment. My hat is off to Tony Fasciano, who is the communications director for Volunteer New York, for putting that segment together, which looked at the last 6 years of this campaign, which again, we at the Journal News and lohud.com are so proud to support. We got together with the leadership at Volunteer New York in 2015 in the hopes of finding a way for both of us to continue our shared mission of bringing community leaders together from the business community and from other spaces with the nonprofit community in a meaningful way to support Giving Tuesday. And the idea of the hat, that volunteers in our community and leaders wear many different hats, was what led to the genesis of the hat campaign. And I can remember sitting at the board table in Volunteer New York's offices in Tarrytown and coming up with this concept with some great colleagues, both from Volunteer New York and from our news organization. And I'm so proud of what it's become today. So I'm thrilled to be here this morning to host this terrific panel. We're going to get things started here, but before I begin with our panelists, let me just tell you a bit about them. Joining us this morning is Karen Ganis, Director of Ride Connect of Family Services of Westchester, Stephanie Dunn-Ashley, CEO of the American Red Cross New York chapter, Walter Ritz, the Executive Director of Hope Community Services, and Kevin Hardy, Executive Director of Meals on Wheels in Rockland. So we're going to be talking with each of our panelists this morning about their interests and needs in terms of Giving Tuesday, how they use volunteers and need volunteers, especially at this time of year in this very different year. And we'll also be talking a little bit about why, as the holidays approach, the missions of each of these nonprofits is important to our communities here in the Lower Hudson Valley. So let me introduce Karen. Again, Karen Ganis is the Director of Ride Connect of Family Services of Westchester. Karen, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Ed. Thanks for having me.
We're so glad you could be here. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about your organization, thinking especially about how you use volunteers at this time of the year, how you need volunteers at this time of year, and talk to a little bit about how the pandemic has changed the way you and your team are operating this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thank you and good morning, everybody. My name is Karen Ganis. I'm the Director of Ride Connect, which is a program of Family Services of Westchester. And since 2010, actually, we have been providing volunteer transportation to older adults throughout Westchester and Southern Putnam counties. We provide that transportation with volunteers. It's all free. And up until the pandemic, we were doing that for any reason, whether it was a medical appointment, the grocer, the library, a hot date. We really firmly believe that aging well really means being engaged in your community. So that's why we did that. And then, of course, March happened, and I don't need to tell any of us or anybody watching, the world kind of stopped pivoting on its axis. And of course, nobody was going anywhere. So there was no driving really to be had, even though we were still driving people for critical medical appointments. We do have clients that have dialysis and chemotherapy, and they need to get to those. And our wonderful volunteers continue to step up to the plate and do that. But in March, when most everything else stopped, we sat down and really thought about what can we do? How can we help? And very quickly, we pulled together another little piece of the program, very ad hoc. We called it Shop and Drop. And that is precisely what it is. We have volunteers that we connect with clients, and the volunteer will go out and do the shopping, kind of like an Instacart, but with a volunteer, and deliver those groceries. In addition, we have a lot of food pantries that we're working with throughout the county, both Putnam and Westchester. And our volunteers will go and either pick up the groceries or pick up a hot meal and deliver it to those folks who are either immunocompromised, the elderly. With that particular program, really anybody that really can't get out of their homes. Since April, since I've been running Ride Connect, I never really realized about the food insecurities in our county. But since April 1st, when we started this program, we have delivered over 11,000 either grocery deliveries or hot food deliveries. And that's just unbelievable. And, without the support of Volunteer New York and RSVP, we would have a very, very difficult time doing that. Since April, 600 volunteers have signed up to work with us to help us do that. And that sounds like an incredible number. And that does not include my driving volunteers, but I need 5,000 volunteers to really help us do what we need to do. As far as Giving Tuesday and what the volunteers mean to us, I would say that for any of the nonprofits, but especially for us, Giving Tuesday is a little bit of an opportunity for a volunteer to dabble, to see what we do, and to think about if that touches their heart in a way that is meaningful to them, to encourage them to want to do something on a more long-term basis. We have volunteers that range in age from 21 to 80. We have volunteers that maybe give us 1 or 2 rides a year, and we have others that give us 10 rides, 10 shops a week, and everything in between. And each and every time they do that, whether it's the person that only gives me the 1 ride a year or the person that gives me 10 a week, every single one of those opportunities and every single one of those rides is so incredibly important, and we are so grateful to have it. It's flexible. There's really no huge commitment, and every one of my volunteers will tell you that they get far more than they give. So Giving Tuesday really is a way to take a look, see if you like it, give it a try. And I think you'll find that you really love helping and giving back.
Well, Karen, thank you for those comments. You really set us up well, and I'm so appreciative for you shining the light on the many volunteers who do work with your organization already across the community, but also on the critical issue of food insecurity here in the Lower Hudson Valley, which is not something that many people really think about, but is become a critical, an emerging crisis, especially as the pandemic has changed circumstances for so many of our neighbors. So thank you for your thoughts and insights there. I want to go now to Stephanie Dunn-Ashley, who is with us from the American Red Cross Metro New York chapter, where she is the CEO. Stephanie, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Thanks, Ed. Thank you so much for having us today.
So how are you and your organization faring in these times? How are you using volunteers? How do you need volunteers this season? And what should our viewers know about your commitment to Giving Tuesday? Stephanie.
Thanks for asking. Well, I'm not sure everyone knows, but it's pretty widely understood that the American Red Cross is made up of 90% of its workforce is volunteers. So we really rely very strongly on those close by, those around the country, those that can deploy. And 2020 has been a really challenging year for us. We've had more disasters than we could count when we ever expected, clearly at the beginning of the year. Hurricane season officially ended yesterday, and we still have one floating around in the basin down below, so hopefully not coming up towards us. But we've been responding. We've had over 5,700 people in the greater New York area this year alone affected by disasters, 1,800 local disasters so far this year. And all of those responses and everything that we've been able to do is we've been relying on volunteers for. And we're doing it in a very different manner. We're being obviously very safe and cautious in regards to all COVID-19 protocols with PPE and social distancing. We're doing remote casework. We're doing some virtual responses. There are some times, obviously, when we are boots on the ground and we have to do that, but we're making sure that all of our volunteers are well-trained, well-engaged, and committed to the mission of alleviating suffering that the Red Cross has been known for almost 140 years. We are so grateful to every single person that walks in the door and helps us with that mission. We are convinced that there are more and more people out there that want to do more for us in a variety of ways, whether it's natural disasters or whether it's working with our services to the Armed Forces Group, whether it's blood collection. We are still very, very much adamant about collecting blood, convalescent plasma. We are testing for COVID antibodies at every blood drive. And that we're also doing in a very different way. So it's been very different, and we totally rely on every volunteer that walks through the door, and we will train you if you need to, if you want to join us.
Stephanie, that's great. And so good to know that the traditional good work of the Red Cross goes on, especially in a grassroots way here in our community. Really appreciate your participation and partnership. As the holidays are forthcoming, what's one thing that you would say your organization is really focused on?
Well, I think really the fact that this is Giving Tuesday and the holidays are upon us, we are an organization that relies on giving. Clearly, everyone here on this panel is as well. But it's really a very different type of giving that we should look to this year. You know, look inside yourself, look inside of what it is that really makes you tick. Think of those things, obviously support local, whatever you can do in that regard, but also think about how you can change the lives of somebody that might have been affected by this pandemic or this year of unusual things happening to us. It's a very unique opportunity for us to go into the holidays. We're all going to be, you know, much more quiet in terms of, we're not doing a lot of parties, we're not doing a lot of outdoor things, we're not having a lot of people over to our homes. It's just not possible. So what can you do internally? How can you do something that's a virtual thank you to somebody that's in your area that has an organization that has those responders still going out, or people still going out to feed those who are homebound, or to work with those that are suffering. Little notes of kindness. One of the things that we're working on in our area, Metro New York North, which includes, as you had said earlier, not only Westchester and Rockland counties, Greenwich, Connecticut, but also West Point. So we're doing, and services to the armed forces is a really big connection to us. What can we do to say thank you to those people? Obviously, you can write those thank you notes, you can donate monetarily, as every organization needs, but with the Red Cross, you can also give blood, which is the gift of life. And that is a really incredible opportunity for so many people. And as I said earlier, we're doing it very safely and very making sure that everyone is, you know, perfectly COVID cleared and all that. You get screened and tested when you come in. And then, you know, make sure that if you need to take a CPR course or you need to get recertified, you can do that virtually. There's so many training courses that you can do online to keep you up to date with anything that may be a necessity for a loved one or family member that's in your pod.
Stephanie, thank you so much for participating this morning. We really appreciate your input, and all the best to you and your volunteers and your staff as you march toward year's end here in a very difficult situation. So thank you. I'm going to turn now to Walter Ritz, who's the Executive Director of Hope Community Services. Walt, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on today.
We're very welcome and very grateful that you're here. So tell us a little bit about what Hope Community Services is up to this season, how volunteers are essential to your work, and where you think you and your organization are headed going into the new year.
Sure. I first want to start really by thanking Volunteer New York, not only for having me here today, but also just for being a fantastic partner, especially during the COVID-19 struggle we've all been going through. Hope has always really had to rely on volunteers to really get the work done here. You know, when the COVID-19 first impacted New Rochelle, we were fortunate to have the National Guard here. And that helped us out immensely, and that helped us scale up quickly. But it was really the volunteers that helped us get through this, because the National Guard left in August, and we are still here, and we are still doing the mission, and the need is still as great as it's ever been before. So again, thank you for just being a terrific partner. What we are looking for going into the colder months, of course, is more support from the community, just again to help us get through these times. With the colder months coming and Hope being a food pantry, we're of course concerned about the experience that our guests are going to have coming here. We've had really long lines wrapping around our building, equating to sometimes 3 blocks worth of people. And in the summer and the fall, it's okay. You know, it's not great, but as it gets colder, we're really looking for ways to be able to minimize their experience out in the cold. And one of the ways that we're looking to do that is by trying to expand the opportunities of pantry and soup kitchen hours here, which means we need additional support from volunteers. Now, as it's getting colder, of course, that means it's going to be colder for the volunteers as well. So we are looking for volunteers that are going to be able to help us out and sometimes be in somewhat uncomfortable conditions. But again, this is for the support of the community, and this is our way of being able to make sure that we're reducing or eliminating food insecurity during a time when I think everyone's feeling really insecure.
Walt, thanks for that. Again, highlighting, as I said earlier, just a critical issue in our communities, especially this year with so many folks who have had circumstances upended. Tell us a little bit about how you see Giving Tuesday as an opportunity and as a moment for people who support your organization.
I see Giving Tuesday as a kind of a highlighted opportunity for people to kind of just be reminded that there are a lot of organizations out there that need help going into the holidays. A lot of organizations like Hope Community Services have holiday programming that we're trying to gear up for. So I think having a reminder or a day like Giving Tuesday is fantastic, because it just reminds everyone right after a big holiday, right after a big shopping spree, that the need is here. We're going into I guess kind of an uncertain winter with COVID, but that we still need support, and we need people to kind of help us once again carry through this time.
Of course, and that's a really good call to action, especially in advance of the holidays, which will soon be before us here in the period between Thanksgiving and the next set of winter holidays. So, Walt, thanks so much for being part of the panel this morning. We'll come back to you at the end. Let me go now to Kevin Hardy with us from Meals on Wheels of Rockland. Kevin, good morning.
Good morning, Ed, and thank you for inviting me.
We're glad to have you.
Thank you. So my name's Kevin Hardy. I'm the relatively new CEO of Meals on Wheels in Rockland County. We were founded in 1974 and been operating since then. Our primary mission has always been to enhance the wellness of our adult community. We did that prior to the pandemic in several ways. We obviously provided meals, hot meals to clients in need, 60% of which were self-pay. They just were people that could not get out and do grocery shopping or for whatever reason. And we operated 5 senior centers in Rockland County throughout the county. The pandemic changed everything, as it did with everyone else. In early March, we needed to close the senior centers for safety reasons. And at the same time, there was dramatic uptick in the amount of meals that we were being asked, both individually from phone calls and through the Office of the Aging in Rockland County, to a point where at our peak, we were delivering almost 27,000 meals, hot meals a month, which is triple what our normal output is. We continue to operate on a lesser level now through some cutbacks to about 19,000 a month. And we have picked up a couple of other ways to communicate with our elderly since the senior centers were closed. We have a telephone reassurance program where we have volunteers calling and checking in on our clients. We also have a virtual senior center, which we've been doing since probably mid-April, and those kind of outreach programs.
So you've got a busy calendar for your volunteers this holiday season. How can Giving Tuesday help support their work for you, Kevin?
All right. Well, this couldn't be a better time for you to be asking me this question, because we have had waves of volunteers in the beginning of the pandemic. There were a lot of people who were working at home and were able to help. We also had school kids that were able to help. And since the schools went back and people went back to work, as I said, we're still delivering a tremendous amount of meals a day, over 55 routes, and volunteer even one day a week, one day a month would be a great help. In addition to that, a little unique volunteerism might be someone who has some talent, some education, who would like to get on our virtual senior centers to educate our seniors, to give them information that they might need. But our biggest need is certainly now, and especially through the holidays, people to go out and deliver meals for us. That would be our greatest need.
Well, that's a great call to action, and I hope our viewers in Rockland were listening and listening well. Very worthy organization that's doing a lot to sustain community in Rockland County. Our friends across the Hudson, I hope you can support Kevin and his team's good work this holiday season. Thank you, Kevin, and thank you to all of our panelists for participating this morning. I wanted to remind our viewers that we have links for each of the 4 nonprofits who joined us this morning. Meals on Wheels of Rockland, Ride Connect to Family Services of Westchester, Hope Community Services, and the American Red Cross's Metro New York North chapter. They are all available on Volunteer New York's website, and current volunteer opportunities for each of those organizations are also posted here. So please dig into the rich resources that are available at Volunteer New York's terrific website. And thanks again to all of our panelists. Now we are going to turn to Jessica Friedman from Volunteer New York to talk about what the organization's resources are heading into the holiday season, what current needs are, and how to get connected and put your hand up to volunteer. Jessica, good morning.
Hi, Ed. Thank you. And happy Giving Tuesday, everyone. Hi, Facebook. Volunteering is obviously at an all-time high and an all-time need right now, not just for Giving Tuesday, but all year round. I kind of joked around with my colleagues, especially earlier in the year and over the summer, when Governor Cuomo would finish his conferences, it was like clockwork. I would get phone calls all afternoon long. How can we volunteer? How can we help? And it was the perfect time, and now is the best time to really help your communities, because as everyone mentioned, COVID-19 really hit a lot of families and hit a lot of nonprofits too. It was difficult to get volunteers in, difficult to try to figure out how to adapt programs, but they did it. And now we need volunteers more than ever. So Volunteer New York is a pro at connecting volunteers to these nonprofits in need. It can be big or small, whatever you can do, however you can fit it into your schedule. Volunteering is super, super important. So some of the opportunities that we discovered were coming out there were like virtual volunteering, for instance, volunteering at home. If you didn't want to venture out of the house and you wanted to volunteer remotely, there are some opportunities there that you can do. And you can also volunteer in person. So as Ed mentioned, we're going to be sharing links in the Facebook chat, so keep your eye on that. For the holidays, for instance, to keep it topical, one of the biggest needs right now are the drives that are going on, food drives, toy drives especially. A lot of families were hurt financially due to COVID-19, and they can't quite provide for their kids during the holidays. The usual gifts aren't happening. So just doing what you can to donate toys or to be a little elf and to help actually organize and sort those toys as they come in. Those are opportunities you can do. For instance, Open Door Family Medical Center has sites all throughout Westchester County, and they're doing a holiday toy drive and a holiday sorting and distribution activities all throughout the month. So you can sign up for those activities if you want to help those families. Another holiday opportunity, which is really great over in Rockland County at the Garner Arts Center. They're doing this great art installation kind of drive-through experience. So they're turning the whole industrial arts complex into an awesome drive-through, really supporting the arts, which, as we know, Broadway is dark because of COVID. So a lot of the smaller organizations, a lot of the arts organizations need some support, need some help. And they're not usually the first people you think of, but they really do a lot to enrich their communities. So this outdoor arts festival is called Let There Be Light. And they're really taking guests through the industrial complex, showing them this wonderful outdoor art show. It's all very safe, very COVID friendly. They're following all the COVID protocols. And they need volunteers to help just guide guests through these art installations. There are selfie stations and just really make this a fun experience. It's a great family-friendly activity. And if you're a volunteer who's 16 or over, you can do it. So this is a great opportunity for students and for teens as well. So definitely check the chats for links to that opportunity. As our wonderful panelists mentioned, there are a great deal of opportunities and needs for assisting with the food insecurity issues that have cropped up due to COVID. So for Meals on Wheels, delivering meals to homebound seniors is huge help. Oftentimes they can't get to the grocery store, so they really do need you to go in. If you have a car, if you have time during your lunch break to kind of just pop over, pick up a shift, drive some food over and help them out, that would be wonderful for them. And it helps them feel like they know where their next meal is coming from. They know that they're not going to go hungry. Driving for older adults for Ride Connect, they still need to get to their medical appointments. They still need to go on their shopping trips. They still need to get out. And so COVID's made that a very scary prospect for them. And for those who don't have cars or who aren't able to take public transportation, this is a very big need right now. So making sure, again, if you have some time, if you have access to a vehicle, taking your car out just for, one shift a week or even one shift a month does a great deal of help for those older adults and those seniors. Like Walt mentioned at Hope Community Services, New Rochelle was the hotbed of COVID in New York State. It was the first area that was really hit the hardest. So again, delivery drivers, food pantry teams helping distribute the food, sort the food, and then taking it out as part of the mobile pantry team to really these communities, to these people who need to know where their next meal is coming from would be a great help. Again, check the chat for those links as well. There's several opportunities to sign up for there. In Rockland County, again, at the Rockland Community Action Program, they also have some food pantry needs. Working in the food pantry is a huge help. Just getting a lot of people in there, not too many because we want to be safe for COVID, but groups of people wearing masks, just being safe. A lot of food is being donated right now, which is wonderful, but we need the staff to actually help volunteers to get in there and sort that food and make sure it's going to the right locations. That's incredible need for those. So food insecurity, if there's any way that you can help, whether donating food, sorting food, driving and delivering it, that would be a wonderful way to help these families, especially this holiday season, just to know where their next meal is coming from, so they know that they can make it through the winter and we can all come out of this strong and safe. On the health front, I'm glad American Red Cross is here. One of the phone calls that I would get over the summer is, I want to donate blood, but can I get COVID by doing it? No, it doesn't go through blood and you can be completely safe. American Red Cross has a wonderful system to screen and to take the temperature of volunteers. One of the best things that you can do is actually be a blood donor ambassador, where you can help blood donors, people who are coming in to donate blood. You can take their information, you can take their temperatures, and you can help the American Red Cross really get their system going and make sure that people are still donating. It's still a huge need. Blood is needed more than ever, completely safe to do. So being a blood donor ambassador would really help Red Cross's mission. So again, check the chat. We're gonna share a link to that as well. And then if you're not sure what to do, if all of those, you're like, oh, this does sound great, but I want to do something else, there are plenty of resources on Volunteer New York's website to go to. You can visit our holiday page. We just launched that earlier this month. So that's at volunteernewyork.org/holiday. You can find all seasonal opportunities. Many of the opportunities I mentioned will be there. Lots of family-friendly ideas. You can also visit our youth and families page, volunteernewyork.org/youth, where you'll find a lot of activities that are good for the whole family, even young kids, and especially teens. Just because COVID happened, just because you're at home from school doesn't mean your community service hour requirements aren't still needed. You still need to fulfill those hours. So volunteering is a great way to do that. And that page is a wonderful place for you to go if you're under 18 and you're looking for family-friendly volunteer activities to do. And then we have a wonderful opportunity that we posted for Volunteer New York. It's called the 52 Acts of Kindness Pledge. If you still aren't sure what to do, or a lot of the opportunities, maybe you don't have a car, or maybe you can't get out and you're still trying to figure out how you can help, take the pledge, do 52 acts of kindness. It can be the same act, so you can write maybe 52 letters or cards to seniors or to veterans who are homebound, or it can be 52 completely different acts of kindness. And these are really, it's just a way for us to encourage volunteers to get out into the community and really help out and do something that they love to do, big or small. It can be cleaning your room for your mom or washing the dishes after dinner, or it can be doing something that I love to do and I do naturally all the time, and go to the grocery store and I put the carts back in the cart return. Don't leave them out in the parking lot. That's an act of kindness. That's something that's really great. You can do that 52 times. You can have that parking lot as clean as whistle. So try any kind of acts of kindness that you'd like to do. Holding the door open for someone, shoveling snow. Now that it's winter, it's going to get snowy out. Drawing artwork for a neighbor, just calling in on neighbors and checking in to make sure that they're okay. Any act of kindness you can do. Take note of it, do it, and then share your photos and your stories with us. You can sign up directly on our website, and we're posting that link on our Facebook chat page too. And let us know what you did so we can help you highlight it and share those acts of gratitude. So really volunteer starting today. Let's all go out. Let's give for Giving Tuesday and then well into the holiday season and next year.
Jessica Friedlander, a volunteer in New York, thank you so much for your energy and for your commitment and for sharing all of those wonderful opportunities with us. I'm particularly inspired by the 52 Acts of Kindness program, and as I'm sure many of our viewers are this morning as well. Wanted to give a salute to the more than nearly 50 people who this year pledged to wear the volunteer hat. They were featured yesterday morning in editions of the Journal News in both Westchester, Rockland, and Putnam counties, all three counties. These are terrific community leaders across our business community, across our nonprofit community. These people are the backbone of the leadership in our counties here in the lower Hudson Valley. And we want to encourage them today to take this message forward, to take the calls from our panelists to volunteer and to share their commitment to Giving Tuesday, to Volunteer New York, and to philanthropy. So if you're out there and you're a hat wearer, we hope you might consider sharing this live video, as well as quite a number of other pieces of social media that the Volunteer New York team has been creating, as well as your photo and video, if you made one, with our own Mark Vergari, our visual journalist at lohud.com and the Journal News, who has shepherded the bulk of this project over the last few years. So if you're a hat wearer this morning, do share some of this content. Just as a reminder, you can feel free to tag Volunteer New York across all platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. You can do the same with lohud. Our social media everywhere is just at lohud. Do connect with us and with Volunteer New York. In terms of hashtags, please use Giving Tuesday and hashtag Bridge to Give campaign. And feel free to use lohud and Volunteer New York in your hashtags as well. We're hoping to see a lot of familiar faces and a lot of familiar hats all across social channels today, all in support of a wonderful cause, which of course is today, Giving Tuesday. So once again, thanks to Jessica Friedlander, the Volunteer New York staff, for highlighting all those volunteer opportunities, and to our panelists who made a very compelling case for getting involved, even if it's in a virtual way in these pandemic days, to make the holidays a little bit brighter for our community, really embracing the spirit of Giving Tuesday. And we're very grateful for their participation. I want to turn now to a special guest whose name I just mentioned, is to introduce Mark Vergari, my longtime colleague at Lohud and the Journal News. Mark is a visual journalist who has worked for our news organization for much of his career, starting in his native Yonkers. Mark has been the photographer who has been attached to the Volunteer Hat campaign since we began the project with Volunteer New York in 2015. And as a result, he's become the backbone of the entire project. Without Mark's visuals, this project simply would not shine in the way that we look forward to it doing every single year. Mark has become well known among the community of people who wear volunteer hats across our counties. And I just wanted to welcome Mark this morning and congratulate him on another great year and talk a little bit about what the program means to him. So Mark, good morning. I hope you are able to hear me and join us.
Hi, Ed. Everybody, good morning. Can you hear?
We can hear you. Mark is an intrepid journalist who's on the road, it looks like.
On the road in my car. Thank you very much for those kind words. I can't believe it's been 6 years. Like you said, it flew by, and each year I look forward to it. This year, apparently, obviously, was much more challenging than the past years. We had to do the photos remotely. We did them outside of the Volunteer New York headquarters because we were not allowed into our building, and into the entire building, never mind our offices. So I appreciate that Volunteer New York was very flexible and letting us do the pictures there. Challenging with the wind, challenging with the rain, challenging with the mud, but it worked out. You know, the people that came to have their hats taken, a lot of the repeat wearers, which is very nice to see. Some new people. The videos were done, remotely too. It's another challenging aspect of this year's pandemic, but everyone's been great to work with. I enjoy seeing the repeat people over and over again each year. Like you said, I've gotten to know them, they've gotten to know me, and it's really been fun. I'm glad that I'm able to contribute the way I do for the newspaper and for Volunteer New York. And having those 6 pages that you just had on display was really impactful. It was very nice to see all the pages together like that, and I was glad to be a part of it since the beginning.
Yeah, Mark, we really appreciate your efforts, especially this year. Usually I know you're able to welcome folks to our newsroom in our studio within our newsroom at 1133 Westchester Avenue in White Plains. And unfortunately this year, because of the pandemic, our offices have been closed, and you showed some tremendous ingenuity and adaptability in finding a way for us to deliver our usual caliber, our very high caliber of visuals, both with the portraits, some of which were part of the program earlier this morning. Mark made images of the hat wearers wearing their masks this year. Obviously very poignant in these pandemic times, and obviously the right thing to do. So we are just so proud of Mark and his dedication to this project. We couldn't do it without him. And so Mark, wish you all the very best for happy holidays. And before you know it, we'll be on a conference call planning number 7.
I know. We're gonna run out of space for the little hats on the in the photos, so we'll have to think of something.
We'll have to think of something for next year.
But yeah, I do appreciate everyone at Volunteer New York. They've been very nice to me, and everyone at lohud too, letting my boss freeing up my schedule to do this, which is very nice and generous on her part too.
Yeah, well, it's all part of our commitment to this great program, and you are an essential component of that commitment. And once again, I just can't say thank you enough to you, my old friend and colleague, Mark Vergary.
All right, thanks, everybody. Good to see you.
Take care, Mark.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead here and turn things back over to our terrific introducer and Volunteer New York Executive Director, Jeanette Gisbert. So Jeanette, back to you, and thanks for everything.
Thanks so much, Ed. This has been such a fantastic way to kick off Giving Tuesday. Thank you for your expert facilitating and MC skills. And so I've got the real pleasure of wrapping things up. And so on behalf of everyone here at Volunteer New York, I just want to say huge thank you to our nonprofit friends, Karen from Ride Connect, Stephanie from Red Cross, Walt from Hope Community Services, and Kevin from Meals on Wheels in Rockland, for sharing with us how folks can raise their hand to help community, not only today on Giving Tuesday, but also into the future. And then, of course, huge thanks to Ed and Mark at the Journal News for being such great partners and collaborators in helping to bring this campaign to life. At Volunteer New York, we believe that volunteering is transformational. We believe that relationships matter. We believe that everyone can serve. And we believe in you, our community, and that despite physical distances that we're currently experiencing, our community continues to embody these beliefs. And so in closing, I want to remind you that today is an opportunity to show your generosity, to take action by donating to Volunteer New York, or to a nonprofit that's close to your heart, by searching for volunteer opportunities, the ones that we've just talked about, and others, by showing some love for these hat wearers and community leaders who have raised their hand to show support for community. And also, if you can also consider watching the full Giving Tuesday podcast that we showed a preview of earlier this morning. So there's lots of things for you to do. Pick one and just do it. And we look forward to hearing about what you've chosen. Share, send an email, comment on Facebook. Let us know what it is that you decide to do. And thank you. Thank you for saying yes to giving where you live and for getting off the sidelines. So thanks, everybody. Happy Giving Tuesday.